Abraham Lincoln, February 12, 1809, April 15, 1865, was an American politician and lawyer. He was the 16th President of the United States from 1861 until his assassination in 1865. He led America through moral, cultural, constitutional, and political crises. He succeeded in preserving the Union, abolishing slavery, strengthening the federal government, and modernizing the United States economy. Lincoln was born into poverty in a log cabin and grew up primarily on the Indiana frontier. He was self-educated, with his parents providing the inspiration. He continued his education largely through his father's efforts. He collected old books from his friends and thus became educated. He became a lawyer, an Illinois state legislator, and a U.S. congressman from Illinois. In 1849, he returned to his law practice but was alarmed by the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which opened up additional land for slavery. He re-entered politics in 1854 as leader of the new Republican Party and reached a national audience in the 1858 debates against Stephen Douglas. Lincoln ran for president in 1860 and led the North to victory. With his success, pro-slavery elements in the South rejected the North's right to practice slavery, and the Southern states began to secede from the Union. To protect its independence, the new Confederate states fired on the southern U.S. fort at Fort Summit, and Lincoln raised forces to suppress the rebellion and restore the Union. As leader of the moderate Republicans, Lincoln had to navigate these contentious factions, with friends and opponents on both sides. The War Democrats had rallied a large group of former opponents into their moderate camp, but they were countered by the native Republicans, who demanded harsh punishment for the Southern enemy. The anti-war Democrats, called Copperheads, despised him, and corrupt pro-Confederate elements plotted his assassination. Lincoln managed the factions by exploiting their mutual animosity, distributing them with political patronage, and appealing to the American people. His historic Gettysburg Address established him as a champion of republicanism, equal rights, liberty, and democracy. He advanced war tactics by imposing sanctions on Southern generals and by influencing trade with the South through naval blockades. He suspended habeas corpus and avoided British intervention by dismissing the Trent Affair. He ended slavery with his Emancipation Proclamation and an order to protect and recruit former slaves in the Army. He encouraged border states to outlaw slavery and promoted the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which outlawed slavery nationwide. Lincoln successfully ran his own re-election campaign. He sought to heal the war-torn nation through reconciliation. On April 14, 1865, a few days after the end of the Battle of Appomattox, Lincoln was attending a play at Ford's Theater with his wife Mary when he was assassinated by the conscript John Wilkes Booth. The marriage produced 4 sons, 2 of whom died, leaving a deep emotional impact on them and Mary. Lincoln is remembered as a martyred hero of the United States, and he is consistently ranked as one of the greatest presidents in American history. Abraham Lincoln was a man of interesting character, as is evident from a letter he sent to his son's teacher. "Dear sir, I have sent my son to you for education. I ask you to raise him as an ideal man. You must teach my son that not all men are just, not all men are truthful. You must also teach him that there is a hero in every villain, that there is a selfless leader in every selfish politician. You must also teach him that there is a friend in every enemy. I know it will take him time to learn this, but if you can, you must teach him that a dollar earned is more valuable than $5 collected. You must also teach him how to accept defeat and how to enjoy the joy of victory. Teach him to stay away from violence. If possible, teach him the secret beauty of silent laughter. As he learns to understand this early on, only those who are oppressors can be easily overcome. Teach him to understand what secrets are hidden in books. Teach my son that it is much more honorable to fail in school than to cheat. Let him have great confidence in himself, even if everyone thinks it is wrong. Teach him to be polite to gentlemen, to be strict with the strict. May my son find the strength not to follow in the footsteps of the drunken crowd. Let him listen to everyone and filter it with the veil of truth and accept only the good. Teach him this too. Let him learn how to laugh in the midst of sorrow, and again teach him to understand that there is no shame in crying. Let him learn to hate those who are cruel and ruthless and beware of excessive comforts. Be kind to my son, but do not indulge him, for steel is refined by fire. Let my son not have the courage to be impatient, but have the patience to be brave. Teach him also that he should have great confidence in himself, and only then will he have great confidence in mankind. Respectfully, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln and Abraham Lincoln's early life and career in the Black Hawk War. In 1832, Lincoln joined his partner Denton Offutt in purchasing a general store in New Salem. Although the project was profitable, the business struggled and Lincoln eventually sold his shares. That March he entered politics, running for the Illinois General Assembly and advocating for navigational improvements along the Sangamon River. He could rally as a public speaker, but he lacked the necessary formal education, powerful friends, and money, and ultimately lost the election. Lincoln briefly interrupted his campaign to serve as captain of the Illinois militia during the Black Hawk War. In his first campaign speech after his return, he addressed a mob attack and grabbed the assailant by the neck and seat of his trousers and threw him to the ground. Lincoln finished 8th out of 13 candidates. The top 4 were elected, although he received 277 of the 300 votes cast in the New Salem district. Lincoln served as postmaster of New Salem and later county surveyor, but continued to pursue his eloquent studies and decided to become a lawyer. He taught himself the law with Blackstone's commentaries, later saying after trying it, "I never studied with anyone." Lincoln's second campaign for the state legislature began in 1834, this time with success against a strong Whig opponent. This was followed by 4 terms in the Illinois House of Representatives for Sangamon County. He gained prominence in the construction of the Illinois and Michigan Canal, and later served as a canal commissioner. He voted to extend the franchise to all white males, except for whites of influence, but adopted a free soil position, opposing both slavery and abolition. In 1837, he declared, "The foundation of the institution of slavery is founded on principles both unjust and evil, but the propagation of the abolitionist doctrine will increase rather than mitigate its evils." He echoed Henry Clay's support for the American Colonization Society, which advocated an abolitionist program combined with the settlement of freed slaves in Liberia. Admitted to the Illinois bar in 1836, he moved to Springfield and began practicing law under John T. Stewart, Mary Todd's cousin. Lincoln Cross emerged as a formidable litigator during the trials and closing arguments. He partnered with Stephen T. Logan for several years and began practicing with William Herndon in 1844, the young man who practiced. According to his account, Lincoln introduced himself to friends in 1861 as a disciple of Henry Clay, an old-line Whig. Their party favored taxation to finance economic modernization in banking, railroads, and internal development, including urbanization. In 1843, Lincoln sought the Whig nomination for Illinois' 7th District in the United States House of Representatives. He was defeated by John J. Hardin, although he remained a party favorite, limiting Hardin to 1 term. Lincoln not only retained the nomination, but also won the election in 1846. He was the only Whig in the Illinois delegation, voting in nearly all of the ballots and delivering speeches that were at the top of the party line. He was assigned to the Committee on Post Offices and Post Roads and the Committee on War Department Expenditure. Lincoln joined with Joshua R. Giddings on a bill to abolish slavery in the District of Columbia, providing for compensation for owners, executions for the capture of fugitive slaves, and a popular vote on the issue. He dropped the bill when Whig support waned. On foreign and military policy, Lincoln spoke out against the Mexican-American War. He supported the Wilmot Proviso, an unsuccessful proposal to ban slavery in any U.S. territory won from Mexico. Lincoln intensified his opposition to Polk by drafting and introducing his spot resolutions. The war had been sparked by Mexican killings of American soldiers in disputed territory by Mexico, and Polk insisted that Mexican troops had invaded our territory and shed the blood of our fellow citizens on our soil. Lincoln had pledged to serve only 1 term in the House in 1846. Realizing that Clay was unlikely to win the presidency, he supported General Zachary Taylor for the Whig nomination in the 1884 presidential election. Taylor won, and Lincoln had hoped in vain to be appointed commissioner of the General Land Office. The administration offered him the position of secretary or governor of the Oregon Territory as a consolation. This remote territory was a Democratic stronghold, and accepting the position would have disrupted his legal and political career in Illinois, so he declined and resumed his law practice. As a leader of the Whig Party, he served 8 years as a state legislator and 2 years in Congress before returning to his legal practice. Lincoln, angered by the Democrats' reestablishment of slavery in the prairie lands, re-entered politics in 1854. He became the leader of the new Republican Party. He gained national attention in 1858 when he ran against Democratic leader Stephen A. Douglas. He lost the election. Later, he ran for president in 1860, defeating the North. He was elected by defeating the North. As a result of his victory, the pro-slavery forces in the South realized that the North was denying the South its constitutional rights to continue slavery. They began the process of secession from the Union in order to create an independent country. Nationalism was a powerful force in the North, and it did not accept this secession. And to maintain independence, the newly formed Confederate States of America attacked Fort Sumter in the South. Lincoln called for volunteers and militias to suppress the rebels to maintain the Union. In his Springfield practice, Lincoln handled the kind of business that a prairie lawyer would find useful. Twice a year, he would sit in the county seat of the Middle County Court for 10 consecutive weeks. This continued for 16 years. Lincoln handled transportation cases during the country's westward expansion, especially cases involving river barge conflicts under the many new railroad bridges. As a riverboat man, Lincoln initially represented all of those interests, but eventually represented whoever hired him. He later represented a bridge company against a riverboat company in a landmark case involving a canal boat that sank after a bridge collision. In 1849, he received a patent for a flotation device for propelling boats in shallow water. The idea was never commercialized, but it did establish Lincoln as the only president. Lincoln appeared before the Illinois Supreme Court in 175 cases. He was sole counsel in 51 cases, 31 of which were decided in his favor. 1853 from 1858 to 1860, one of his largest clients was the Illinois Central Railroad. His legal reputation earned him the nickname the Heartbreaker. Lincoln argued the case in an 1858 criminal case defending William Duff Armstrong, who was on trial for the murder of Jean Preston Metzger. In this case, Lincoln became famous for using a fact established by judicial notice to challenge the credibility of an eyewitness. After an opposing witness testified that he had seen the crime in moonlight, Lincoln produced a farmer's almanac that showed that the moon was at a low angle, which reduced visibility. This resulted in Armstrong's acquittal. After leading his presidential campaign, Lincoln raised his profile in the 1859 murder trial by defending his third cousin, Simon Quinn Peachy Harrison. Harrison was also the grandson of Lincoln's political opponent, Reverend Peter Cartwright. The murder of Greek Crafton. The indictment charged Harrison, who, as he lay dying of his wound, confessed to Cartwright that he had provoked Harrison. Lincoln angrily protested the judge's initial decision to exclude Cartwright's testimony regarding this inadmissible hearsay confession. Lincoln argued that the testimony involved a dying declaration and was not subject to hearsay rules. Instead of holding Lincoln in contempt of court as expected, the judge, a Democrat, reversed his ruling and admitted the testimony, resulting in Harrison's acquittal. On January 1, 1863, he legally abolished slavery, but the Southern Americans could not accept it. They seceded and formed separate states, dividing America. Later, this internal conflict started the Civil War. About 8,000 people were killed in this civil war in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, USA, on July 1st, 3. On November 19, 1863, Abraham gave a short and earth-shaking speech at a memorial service. This famous speech of 272 words in just 2 minutes is the Gettysburg speech. It is one of the best speeches in the history of the world. The most remarkable aspect of this speech is that Lincoln gave a perfect definition of democracy in just one sentence. According to his interpretation, democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people.